Vassiliadis.
Welcome to Two Balls and a Mic. We have Mr. Alan Underwood on the other side. But more importantly, no, it's not more importantly, everybody's important, but a very important person who I do believe holds the record for most appearances on Two Balls and a Mic. Our friend, your friend, chairman of San Diego Loyal Soccer Club, El Fútbol, aquí en San Diego, by the great Andrew Vassiliadis. Andres, how are you?
I'm well. How are you all?
Good.
Doing great. Thank you for your time.
I feel like I need to match Alan, even though this is an audio medium, and go hoodie up now.
I'm cold. It's cold, so I'm up in Riverside. I had to scrape ice off my windshield this morning.
Oh no!
It was a whole thing. Luckily, I had one from Colorado from a few years ago, but I was like, "What? This isn't." I know.
No, it's been cold out here this last couple of days. We were talking with somebody from East Coast, and they were like, yeah, no, like San Diego cold is different cold. So sometimes you can walk out in like 30-degree weather with a shirt and a light jacket, but here it's just frigid just because we're so close to the ocean. So don't tell me
We're
San
still
Diego
spoiled.
Don't tell me San Diego doesn't have weather, but we'll still.
Think about CJ. Didn't he just post a video of like his car door like iced and he can like
Yeah, Austin's a whole different thing.
Could be worse.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
Could be a lot worse.
But I mean, welcome, Andrew. Obviously, thank you again for your time. You've always been generous with us and, pretty open. So, I mean, let's get down to it. I hope you're ready for a 6-hour interview onslaught of questions.
Ready to be held to the fire.
But I mean, tell us. I mean, how did you transition as far as the end of the season, and kind of how you mourn the end of the season or how you went about that? Obviously having a very different outlook and role as a fan of the club. Just take me through those emotions.
Yeah, I think that's the first word you start at, right? A lot of emotions. It is not a short season, right? 10 months. We work towards a goal, and to see it kind of burn itself to the ground like that at the end was difficult to watch in the moment. But just like anything, you have those feelings in the moment, and then hopefully later on you're able to reflect and see what you can take away from it. I try to meet with a few players at the end of the season. They all go through their exit interviews with the coaching staff, and it's very official and all that. So I just took some time to talk to some guys who are important to our squad and just hear them out. I'm not really going to share those conversations, but it's always good to just take everybody's temperature. Trust me, nobody in that locker room was happy about how it ended either. And we need to correct those issues. So in those moments, we act better. One of the things I also think about when we take away from it, I said this in my interview this morning with CBS, I'm very proud that we're returning 17 guys to this roster. You don't see a lot of that in the USL Championship. You're seeing more of it, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But to bring those 17 guys back not only brings continuity back, but it also brings that scar back. Those are 17 guys that went through that together that are now going to have to show that they're better than that, right? It's not a new mix of guys. I mean, obviously there are some new guys, but it's not a different group that doesn't understand what that moment meant and how hard that was and how difficult it felt. So my goal is that not only was I able to reflect, but they were able to reflect in the same manner, so that an instance like that comes up again, we find ourselves in a different circumstance than we did that time. So yeah, not how you want to end a season, never. But I also can't look past the strides we have made, right? We went from almost making the playoffs to making the playoffs to hosting a home playoff game. And that was a goal at the beginning of the season when we started last year, host a home playoff game. I hope I'm not making Ricardo upset right now, but this year's goal, host Western Conference Final. That's the goal. Anything less than that is not acceptable as far as we are concerned as a group. And that comes from the top all the way down to the players. They believe it. We believe it. Now let's go prove that we can do it. We scored a lot of goals last year. but we failed at that final moment. And we've done that twice now. So we need to prove that we can do it. I'll share a little story really quick. I was at the USD preseason game, and along with watching the game, I got the time to walk around or just chat with a few people. And I talked to a gentleman who's been a season ticket holder with us since season one. And I said, what can we do better? Anything, ticket side, what can we do better? And he said a few comments that I don't need to share, but the one that's pertinent for this story was, winning's great, but now you got to win in the playoffs. He made a comment about the Chargers. He's like, look, I used to be able to set my holiday schedule, my winter schedule, because I knew they weren't going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And a part of me was like, sir, I hear you. And I said some of the things that I told you guys just right now about our progression in the last couple of years. And I hope that he saw that. But I also walked away and I went, wow, that's where the bar is now. Making the playoffs isn't good enough for us anymore. We need to start winning some of those playoff games. And I'm proud that people feel that way. They care. They want us to see it to be more successful. So it's always that, everybody wants to win the championship, but we always constantly want to get better. One little fun fact that I have from last season, you saw towards the end of the year, we signed that deal with DribLab to do some scouting and some analytics for the club. One of the things we did at the end of the season was put every single player through their system from beginning to the end of last season. Every single player on our roster, statistically or analytically, got better by the end of the year. That's good. Still doesn't mean anything because we got to win. I get it. But we're doing the right things, I guess, is where I'm headed with that.
And then, Andrew, just to follow up, you mentioned 17 players returning, and you posted on social media that you've been to a few trainings already this preseason.
Mm-hmm.
With those 17 players, have you noticed anything different chemistry-wise, anything with that large amount of players coming back already?
I don't know if I would say anything significantly different, right? You have your leaders. The guys that are still vocal in practice are the same. It's Guido, it's Charlie Adams, it's Colin Martin. Those are the guys kind of really beating the drum on who we are and what we need to be in practice. What I'm seeing is just competition everywhere. It is no surprise that we have 4 legitimate starters in the midfield and 3 spots. There is somebody that will miss out every game that should be a starter in that role. And then how do we manage those relationships and those feelings as people aren't playing as many games that they thought they were going to play, or, who knows how that plays out. So one of the things I've also seen is just progression from some of the young guys. Jackson, Morgan, I wouldn't say isn't as young as he used to be, but that kid's flying around in a manner that I haven't seen him fly around in the last 2 years. Really showcased against San Diego State. I thought he played well in that one. And then I touched on it a second ago with Jackson. We have 5 defenders. People will say, well, you didn't make any moves in the offseason in your defense, and your defense needs to get better. We believe that we have the right group of guys, and that we brought 2 guys in at the end of last year that made it so that we didn't need to go after other players when it came to defensive players, or at least center backs going into this season. Adding Jackson, and then finally following through and getting Ebenezer. For those who don't know, he should have been on the roster not last season, but the season before, if I'm correct. Yeah. So to bring him in and now have all 5 of those guys who played at the end of last year together for a little bit, spent an entire offseason together. I know that Nate actually started with that group first and has been working with them. And then it's finding that best 3. They're going to find that balance in that 3-5-2 that shifts to a 4-4-2. So I think that's what I'm seeing that I love to see right now, is just the competition at each level and what's available. I mean, go to the goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Koke's phenomenal, but he's now got a young kid breathing down his neck that's with the U.S. youth national team right now. That's going to be fun to watch as we move throughout the season.
Yeah. Speaking of David, and even the success of CJ moving to SDSU, getting drafted by Austin, like right now we still have that Parttime Academy. Is that still part of that plan, or do those success stories inspire you to continue and maybe build out that full-time academy program? So now you're not having to go out and get a CJ Fodry. He's already in your backyard training with the first team as your academy.
That is 100% the dream. Um, the issue that is presented to me right now is just training facility. We do a lot of renting of training facility, and to do that properly, I want to make sure that we own the facility first and can really like maximize the potential there. Unfortunately, there's some things that have slowed that down. I would have liked to have seen that up and running by the start of this season. But asterisk, that does not deviate from what we are attempting to do with Loyal Select and the way that we have created the structure there. What I'm glad you brought up CJ. What I think we're doing is we're showing families here in San Diego that even in that manner, we can show success. We have now taken Duran, who, you know, was a great goalkeeper here in San Diego. There was buzz around his name. He goes from Loyal Select, first team contract, and within less than 12 months, he's now the third goalkeeper at his age group at the youth national level.
Yeah.
Like that's the proof is in the pudding right there. I don't have to do much else but show that to parents and say, look, we can do it even in the structure that we have right now. The problem is we have to get these kids so young right now. It's sometimes tough to analyze, are they ready or are they not ready? Right now, I think you guys have heard me say this before, whether it was here or other places. Top 25 kids in San Diego are already gone. Number one kid in San Diego is with LAFC right now. Of the 16-year-olds that are about to, take that next leap, Houston comes in, Real Salt Lake comes in. So we need to start getting to these kids when they're 13, 14, and that's what we're trying to do. And then see if we can develop them and make sure that they don't take that, that leap out of our city. And again, I don't think that's a tough sell, right?
Yeah.
Like, kids stay home, or do you want them to go to Houston?
Do you see Cholos potentially being a partnership in this, or are they, it's competition because they as well have their own academy? There's a lot of, we did commentary for the under 21 youth, under 17s, and they were like, no, we need this in English too, because a lot of the parents are in the US and they cross every day, and everybody has that relationship with that. Like, is that something that you would hope to, move into, maybe a cross-border partnership and get some of the kids that live on that side to also be part of it too? Obviously take care of us, our own first in that process, but is that an avenue that you maybe want to explore as well with that?
Yeah. I mean, especially because I can't remember the exact radius of the rule, but we are because of our location to the border and how close we are to Tijuana, we are actually within our own zone to look at kids across the border, right? If we were, let's say, in Sacramento or further up north, we wouldn't be able to reach down across the border. So where we are allows us to do that. Now, I will say this, our relationship with Cholos right now is great, but I wouldn't be surprised if we started to pull out a full academy that there's some hesitation of, wait a minute, is this competition, or are we working together? You guys have heard me say many times, it's about working together for me. I will work with anybody who wants to work with me, because why can't we all get better? It's simple.
I like that.
And then just following up with Youth Academy, we know Landon was very passionate about growing the Youth Academy and just working with the young. We've seen him at training, right? After training, just focusing a couple more drills with the players. Is that something that he's also going to start focusing more, or can you give us also an insight on what his new role essentially is going to be?
Yeah, so building the roster and making sure we're in the right place on that side, dealing with the players and their agent. That's probably his main focus right now, right? Off season into the start of the new season. You may have heard him say he's still going to be around at training, even though he's not the coach anymore. Well, I haven't seen much of him yet, but that's because I think he's so focused on getting the roster ready. But he has said to me, Andrew, what I want to do when I come down there is work with the young guys. Like, he'll work with anybody. He'll work with all the attackers if they need it. But he really wants to focus on developing those guys. Watching Duran get to where he has gotten to right now really was a full circle moment for Landon. Landon lands on the U17 youth national team, and I think he goes on in this same scenario to win like the Golden Boot in a tournament, right? And then that's boom, there he goes. And he sat me down when we knew this was happening. He said, Andrew, it's really hit me a lot harder than I expected it to. That like I've now helped somebody potentially do what I was able to do. And I think that just was injected into his veins, and he's like, "Give me the next ones."
I love that. Alan?
I mean, what better person to like have those conversations with, right? But
Yeah.
obviously that opens up kind of a newer role for, I mean, I shouldn't say a newer role, but a different role for Nate Miller as the head coach, coming from where there was Landon there a lot. Now there isn't Landon there as much. What do you have as far as like expectations for Coach Miller now that he's like the official head coach? Is there different expectations? Is it like just keep building the thing you're building? Like, what is it now, the expectations for him, knowing that Landon's a little bit in a different position?
Yeah. So the expectations are like how I stated, at least for the on-field expectations, is like what I said before. That doesn't change whether it was Nate Miller or anybody else. Nate embraces that and he loves it. He is always constantly looking to develop and evolve, so I don't have to worry about that. He goes and gets his pro license and becomes a part of a very select group of coaches. I don't even know how many in the USL Championship have their pro license in the same manner that he does. So that's not where I spend my time worrying about. What I loved about Landon and Nate working together is I saw a very yin and yang ethos. I saw this tactical manager and this guy who's been through it all, soccer wise, and could speak to the players in to their heart and really speak to the ethos of a person. Do I want Nate to be Landon Donovan? No, I do not want Nate to be Landon Donovan. I want Nate to be Nate Miller and be who he is, but I want to see him embrace that side of it as well. He's an incredible tactical manager. I think we play in a style that is very aggressive and forward thinking for the level that we're at. But can he round out and be the rest of it? I think he can. I think there was a lot of times where he knew he could be bad cop because good cop was going to speak nicely to the guys.
Yes.
I've seen a tremendous, I don't want to say shift. He's just so focused now. Not that he wasn't focused before, but he's focused on the entire business. He's in the office talking to Shannon, asking how is she getting things done? How is Nick getting promotions done? He wants to be involved in everything. I loved the fact, I don't know if you guys have realized a little bit, we're moving preseason games around San Diego a little bit.
Yes.
Right? We got Miracosta coming up. We did USD. We did the training facility. That was his choice. He came to us and said, hey, let's see if we can get more people to see it in different places. That's not something he would have said last year.
100%. Yeah, I have to agree. With his media vision and sometimes restrictions, like I can attest to that 100%. That is true.
Maybe now we'll be able to step on the field after the meetings.
No.
But 100%, he has my faith and he has my belief. I'll share a story I didn't think I was going to share with you guys today.
I love it.
Now that Landon is in the role that he's in, I no longer have to worry about MLS coming and sniffing and trying to snatch him up as a coach.
Okay.
The couple times that used to happen in the last couple of years when so-and-so came calling, I told Landon right away, I know he probably wants to go with you, but I'm going to make a move for Nate Miller because I believe in him. So even in those moments before, I was ready to pull the trigger and believe in this guy as being a head coach. That has not changed. Has my support 100%. And I've told him, anything you need, we will be there for you.
Interesting. And so, I mean, when the brass tacks does come in, right, and, you know, I wholeheartedly hope that all of our wishes for San Diego Loyal come true in every sense. But, I mean, do you consider this his year one as head coach? Because even to Landon's statements, you know, he'll be the first one to tell you, right? Like, Nate did a lot of the coaching, and that's being generous on his side as well. But for the players and that philosophy has always kind of been there with you know, Miller Ball. Do you see this and consider this like a year one or a continuation of a longer project that he's been having his hand in this entire time?
That's a great question. I'm gonna give you the double answer. It's a continuation of the play style and who we are, but it is year one as head coach. It is not the same. It is not the same as being an assistant coach. Um, let forget about the game itself and the roster and the players. There's going to be a hot mic in front of your face after a win or a loss every time. He hasn't had to do that. There are different promotional things. There are different obligations that he'll have to fulfill that he maybe didn't have to do before. So on the field, it's continuation. As a head coach, it is year one. And with that will come some grace. Like, we are all humans. Landon has made mistakes in year one and in year two. So we will allow for the same. We just don't want to see the same mistakes made twice, right? Can we correct the behavior? Just like a coach wouldn't want to see a player, makes the same mistake over and over and over again.
I mean, that's a fair answer. Just, because he does have that unique position of having feet on both sides, and there are different expectations and roles. And I mean, I think, a lot of people have said this is he probably sleeps with the soccer ball, and that's just his life. Eat, breathe, sleep, everything soccer. So
I try, you guys. I tell him, I'm like, Nate, take a breath. And he fights me on it. He fights me on it. He's so consumed with it. And I think it's healthy to a degree, but sometimes I want him to just be Nate and not be the soccer coach.
And with that, like, he brought up the calculator with that. Sorry, I don't know you were going to follow up, but he brought up the calculator, and just want to get your quick thought on the fact that he believes, and I think it's true, that San Diego Loyal is the most traveled team, where, give or take, there are other teams on the West Coast that do similar traveling, but not as much potentially. So any thoughts on that? Put any stock in that? Because obviously Nate opened that with his players. He told us he would.
No, it's a great testament to what we were just talking about, right? How do you handle that as a new head coach? Those decisions lay now at your feet. When we travel, are you going to be able to rotate players? Are you going to make the right decisions? Are we going to, have to deal with injuries that we haven't had to deal with before because of all this? It is very, very real. I always try to put it in this perspective, right? The teams in England have to travel across California, essentially, for all their matches. That's the distance. We're going thousands of miles across the country for some of these matches. And it is what it is. Everybody's got to do it. And I'm proud that we do it. When we got into this a few years ago, remember, you never saw Eastern Conference teams. And I think it legitimizes our league so much more when you have these cross-country matchups. Look at how we're going to open up the season. Detroit City FC, that's awesome. That wouldn't have happened a few years ago. Okay, we got to travel a little bit more. We'll do our best to recover and get them in the best place so we can succeed.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think we've seen this league evolve as San Diego, right? Like, every year has been a completely different kind of set of circumstances, right? Where it's, it's the COVID year, it's you're in small bubbles, you're gradually getting bigger. Now everyone's playing everyone. And I talked about this on the USL show, is even USL fans, I'm not sure, have a complete understanding of what this league is going to look like this year, because I don't think this league has seen something like this at this magnitude ever. Like, they've had something early on, but they've been in conferences forever. And it's like, you never travel across unless it's a final. So, like, how has the vision of the club changed or evolved from that beginning to now, especially that since there was a pre-COVID Loyal and now there's kind of this post-COVID Loyal? How has the vision of the club kind of evolved with those changes?
Great question. First, I want to touch on something that's going to make this year unique as well. No more two teams. I'm so happy about that. I knife fight with people sometimes about trying to tell them that this isn't minor league sports. I don't feed in to a bigger league in front of us where the players on our roster care about nothing more than getting back up to the highest position. And then people go, well, you play LA Galaxy too.
Yeah.
You're like,
they got you.
You're right. Yeah. So that being gone now is a great feeling. It does, like you said, mean more travel. How we look at it is kind of how you framed it. Post-COVID, pre-COVID. We were restricted financially about what we really wanted to do with the roster until we kind of actualized some fans in the stands and could see what that was really about. Once we knew we could make those commitments to the roster, the thought process then changed. I would say the biggest change was we believe we can be the best. We are putting the best product on the field that we believe is in the USL Championship, and we have every opportunity to succeed and be the best. And I'm very proud in the 4 years what we've been able to do. We have put a foothold and let people know that this is not going to be a walkover anytime you come and play us. We've got some great rivalries now with Phoenix and some other cities. Oakland has our number, and I got to figure out a way to beat them. So having some history, and that's what I'm proud of now, having gone through some things, some pain, some struggles, some great moments, some high-flying games, that weird 5-0 LA Galaxy, like being the best and being the best example we could be for the rest of the USL Championship, I think was the biggest shift from that pre-time to post-time.
What about off the field vision for Loyal? How has that evolved as far as like maybe front office or just being out in the community? Has anything changed, evolved as far as the mentality of the vision of the club?
Yeah, office, definitely there were some changes, right? There are some faces that were around at the beginning that are no longer around. But that's probably the thing I'm happy about most, outside of how well we played last year, is what an incredible job Ricardo has done just riding the ship and getting everybody behind them and just rowing in the right direction. I don't know why I keep using a boat metaphor there, but I'm proud to say we were one of the few clubs in the USL Championship that has a 60-40 male to female ratio split at minimum in our office. We were named San Diego Union Tribune's one of the best places to work in San Diego last year. And just getting that group really honed in and believing in what we believe in as our core values, of what we expect from you, of what we want you to be in our community, has really been a pleasure to watch. Watching people get elevated. I miss her to death, but watching Megan go on to work for Charlie, watching Stephanie get elevated, watching Shannon take on a role that she hasn't taken on before and be successful, watching Nick really lock into partnerships and do some incredible things there for us. And then, like I said, Ricardo, first-time president. I wish I could have taken a snapshot of his face when I first told him the job was his. I knew in that moment that it was going to be everything for him, and it has been. So watching those guys succeed and really push us forward has been great. And then actualizing the community outreach that we wanted to do. I feel things haven't happened as fast as I wanted them to.
Mm-hmm.
The OUI initiative that we just accomplished right now, to be the first in the state to do that, is huge. I just wish we had done that last year. But it took some time. It took some time after COVID to figure out how we could get people on board, how we could get out into the community. But we're starting to actualize that in meaningful, impactful ways. And again, it goes back, Travis, another one, who's been phenomenal in the office. Not only are we impacting the community, I feel we do a great job in preparing for it, making sure that the thought process behind it is right, and making sure the community feels like they're heard in those moments. So very proud about what we've been able to do with that aspect of the club.
Just a follow up with that is, obviously there's people and great members coming in, but how are we harvesting just the locals, much in the same way that, not the locals 109, but just the local community, just the entire, from Oceanside to San Isidro, to be represented in I've had conversations with some people in the club, and as far as it comes to, hey, I'd love to see somebody that represents me or my type of individual in that office, right? A little bit cultura, raza, to not, just kind of beat around the bush, right? And it was shared that, while that would be something ideal to hire those individuals and that demographic, there's not a lot of people applying for those jobs. And my challenge there would be, how are we, as moving forward in trying to right that ship, where we do start getting a little bit more representation, where, sometimes, the Spanish is great when it does get translated. Shout out to Mr. Orozco, but times on the Twitter timeline where I'm like, Google Translate, but like, it's fine. It gets the job done.
It's not Google Translate. It's Danny taking Spanish classes, doing his best.
You got found out. Well, let's bump the Duolingo to a premium subscription. But I mean, how is the club tackling things like that? Is that something that is an area of focus to move forward? I know, like I said, there's a lot of people from outside of the club, but I do feel like some of the feedback that we're getting from the streets is, hey, like, where are we at? And the part of me is always like, well, apply. And so it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3, but is there an concerted effort to reach out maybe to community colleges down south, Southwestern College, City College, or something in that sense?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's an initiative that we have, that we're working on, that we actually put in place right now. I think you're onto something, and we should be doing that. What I will say is it's frustrating me sometimes. We'll have a position open and I'll start looking at candidates, and no disrespect to people of my color. It's just white guy after white guy after white guy after white guy. Mm-hmm. And I've said to Ricardo, this isn't what I want. I want more diversity in this office. I want to bring more. Now, I hope this isn't considered throwing them in the bus. I made a move. I wanted DK. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to we couldn't get to a meeting of the minds. I love him, and he's doing a great job where he's at. So I've tried. Mm-hmm. I tried to get Jerry. Yeah. Jerry then went to the Wave, and so I couldn't grab him. And so I have been attempting to add that where I see it fit. We brought in Pato from Mexico City, and I love what Pato was doing. Unfortunately, we couldn't find the exact fit for him. So it's not good enough. I appreciate you bringing that up, but don't think it's not something we're thinking about or not working on.
It's fair enough. Apply again. Apply. Like, you never know. I know, in knowing Ricardo's story himself, like, he worked through it, right? Like, he worked the ranks, and he got obviously to the position where he's at now. But the avenue is there, and so I think that there's a lot of people who don't know that this is a way. Much like a local kid wouldn't know that there's a way to make it professional. There's other ways to make it into the pro sport, and it's
I really hope that's where junior achievement and our little shop in there kind of shows people that there's that opportunity. I know those are young kids, and we wouldn't see them for a long time or anything like that, but that's an example of trying to show people that you can be a part of this world too, that there's different jobs here that are available to anybody.
100%.
Yeah, I kind of want to transition into more of us as the fans filling up Torero, right? Obviously, it's not a secret that I think Loyal last year struggled maybe packing Torero more times than we wanted to pack it more than they did last season. But is there anything that the team is maybe focusing on to reach out to try to get more fans in? I know we saw all those giveaways that are going to happen as well, like 11 games, right? So is there anything that maybe the team is focusing on to try to be able to get it? Because the fans are out there. So how do we get to those 100%.
Fans? So I'm going to say something first that doesn't answer your question, but kind of lays the path for where we're going to head. I'm not worried about once people walk through those turnstiles. You may have heard me say this. Mm-hmm. I think if we get people once, maybe 2 times most, they're hooked. So it's how do we get them through that turnstile? We talked a while ago about people in the executive team really, being forward thinking and executing. Summer concert series, huge hit. We're going to do stuff like that again. Bring people out to see other things besides just a soccer match. Group sales is huge for us. Group sales was another thing that was hard to get going early on because of the pandemic. We couldn't get large companies to bring big groups out. Mm-hmm. We actualized some of that last year. So really hammering the drum there. You talked about it yourself. We were thoughtful last year with a few giveaways, but we saw how successful those nights were. And now look what happened. We turned it into 11 or however many you saw, and we're ready to go. We know what they are. We know when they're coming, and you can plan on that as well. The other option we hear is, right, I don't want to buy a full season. All right, we're going to give you flex plan options. And depending on which option you come into, there's little kickers, right? I think the last one gets you a jersey if you pick 12 games or however many it may be. So there are conservative efforts to go out there and do that. I also won't hand out tickets, right? We could pack the building.
Yeah.
I can give away another 1,000 tickets and we could pack the building, but I want people to come and appreciate it for what it is. We did some more dynamic pricing last year. I don't know if you guys saw any of that, right? We gave people different options. It's a small arena, so it's difficult to do at times. But we're trying to find ways to bring more people in. We had San Diego Unified come in last year for a night, I think at least. Junior Achievement, which I was just speaking to, I think every family gets a voucher for a ticket. That's another opportunity to bring them in. Once they come in, I have a feeling they're going to come a second time. So it's really, how do we get them out? The one that I love that we do is when we take training around to the different high schools, right? It's an opportunity for those kids who may not know that we're around to see the product firsthand. So yeah, I want that place packed, and that's Stephanie's job, and we're going to work towards that every single time. I will tell you this, our 4,000 people plus you guys and the locals and the Chavos make it feel like way more than that, especially when I look around the league and see what else is going on.
Alan?
Yeah, I think you hit on some of the things about building connections to the players, and it's one of the things that I think attracted me to USL to begin with, was that there seemed to be a much greater connection between the fans and the players and the coaches. It felt very community. It felt very, I'm going to run into these people going to grab a burrito or a burger. You were bringing folks down, like your pre-match ritual, bringing some fans down before the match. Talk to me about that. Like, why do you find that the enjoyable for you, and will that continue on in the future?
Oh, it's 100% continuing on in the future. For me, it's just such an easy thing to do to make somebody smile in an easy way, right? Like, the Padres could do that. They could have somebody walk around the stadium and grab a few kids that have been there since batting practice and take them onto the field for a few seconds. It's not hard. It's not rocket science, right? And so we have these opportunities. We talk about growing loyalty. I have a meeting with Ricardo every week, and he has to start that meeting with one growing loyalty moment to me every week. And so I have to be held responsible as well. I've told people in our office, you see somebody you want to give a jersey to because you have a great conversation with them, or they're telling you something that really hits home with you, grab them a jersey. Do something to make somebody's day a little bit better. As the chairman, what could I do to make somebody's day better at a game? These people are coming, spending their hard-earned money to watch us play some soccer. I see kids with their eyes just glowing, right? Of envisioning themselves being down there. And all I have to do is grab them and say, hey, do you want to head down? And they get down there, and they're over the moon with the experience. I've gotten photos back from parents of, like, my son is now kicking a soccer ball against the garage the last 12 hours because you guys brought him down. And then I do want to acknowledge the other side of that, because it is a two-way street, and you touched on it, Alan. These players, and I do very little to encourage us at the beginning of the year. They are phenomenal with their time. The time that they spend down the sideline, the time that they spend with people when they meet them in the street, the time that they spend with them, when we did that little signing session, that's them. That's them being genuine, and that's why I think it's felt why our fan base is so receptive to it, because it feels so genuine, and it is. It really is. These guys love to give their time. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes MLS makes. I understand that they have an agreement with their MLS Players Association that players are only obligated to do 3 events a year. And then the ownership groups use those 3 events as what? Big sponsors, right? Jersey sponsor, they go to that one. They're not doing these kinds of things. And it's so easy. It's so easy.
So, I mean, and a question that I kind of wanted to segue that into is, that's something that, at least for Two Balls and a Mic, that we've always wanted to show, that aspect of the players, right? Like, we'll go to training, and, some of our favorite moments is, going back to Josh Yarrow telling us that, hey, you're recovering from an injury. What did you do to recover? Like, ice bath? He's like, no, I just watched a lot of TV. I was watching Manifest, like, terrible show, but, like, I watched the whole thing. So it's like, those are the things that you kind of, get to know the people. We've gotten to know Elijah Martin. We've gotten to know, people who weren't from here and now seem like they've been local this whole time. But with that, what is your outlook on, say, local coverage of your team in order to not get those stories out, right? Like it has to be frustrating, I imagine, when the UT has 3 lines about the San Diego Loyals and, and then the other page is 3 paragraphs of whatever another team paid to have a poorly written column about soccer as well. So it's just, my overall question is like the coverage of your team. Obviously you were on CBS earlier this morning. How do we get you to be, leading story? None of this, hey, you're 2 or 3 down.
Well, I will say this. Mark Ziegler has really grown to love us. Maybe he's not writing every article about us, and he may not be kind to us all the time. But I had a great one-on-one conversation with him last season, where he really was honest with us and how impressed he's been with the things that we've been able to do. Now, has that gotten us more coverage in those publications? Not necessarily. It's also why I'm so grateful for you guys and for everybody else who covers us and spends the time speaking about us. I would prefer it to be organic. Does that mean it's going to take longer and maybe we're not going to reach as many people? Yeah, but I want the people that care. I want to spend my time with the people that care about it. And if you're willing to come talk to me about what I love, I'm going to talk to you till I'm blue in the face about this team. And we're going to grow this thing, and you're going to watch the club grow just how I've watched you guys grow.
I appreciate that.
And I hope that over time, those publications take more notice of us and spend more time covering us. But I would rather the people who want to cover us continue to do that. And we're going to give them as much inside as we can.
And we will hold the club to that 100% with your permission.
Yeah, and I think it puts more pressure on Travis and his team to tell the story, right? And yes. I think they do a pretty phenomenal job of it. I would love to do some sort of, Hard Knocks preseason, follow the team. People want a lot of money to film those. I've had crews come approach me about it. It's significant. So we try to do it to the best of our ability in the ways that we can. I really enjoyed Hot Takes last season. I want to see more of that. Just the guys being guys and getting to know their stories. Hot topic right now. Oh, Americans love Wrexham. Oh, it's all because of the TV show and the storylines. Every single one of those storylines is on our roster. Talk to Toomey. Ask him about where he's been and what he's gone through. Talk to Jackson. Talk to Charlie.
Yeah.
Talk to Colin. Like, they're there. They're there. All those stories are there. So we need to do a better job of telling them sometimes. And that's where I really appreciate the work you guys do to kind of fill those gaps.
100%. And I mean, that's kind of the line that we've always wanted to make sure that comes through is soccer above everything, but the players and the characters that make that possible is really what makes this special. And like you said, the stories are there. And so we'll be happy to cover them. We'll be there. And I mean, geez, look, we do this now. Like we have we're doing it, man. Like Google, there you go. Like anything you want. But it's something that's still rather new, right? It's still year 4. And I think Joe Corona even touched on this, like when he was talking about like wanting to maybe move this team up into the MLS in some future or any type of, future that has, but it all has to come together. And it's not just going to be, a switch of the wand, for that. So let me just kind of pivot a little bit. Alan was talking about that post-COVID way of existing as a club. Let me just get your take. What's your post-child life now as the chairman? Like, is that taken away from responsibility? Some time, obviously, we live vicariously through you and that kid having a fun time at Disneyland.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Take me through what that's been like as far as like your responsibilities with the club. Has that put some distance between you and what you got going on?
Yeah. So it's so funny. I was just talking to somebody about this. My son was born in October. of 2019. And I would jokingly tell people as my wife was getting more and more pregnant, like, great planning by me, right? Right at the end of the year, nothing going on, just playoffs, just the biggest games of our lives, at this point in time. Then he came into this wonderful world. And unfortunately, we got bounced out of the playoffs right around that same time. And I got to spend the first 3 months of his life not really having to think about soccer. And after I got to do that, I looked back on it and I was like, son of a bitch, that was the right timing. Imagine if he was born in March and my first three, which is my birthday's in March, and then his first 3 months would have been our first 3 months of his season. That would have been a lot more difficult to figure out, no, my time would have been with my son. So it would have made my work suffer a little bit. So to have that ability to really hone in on those first 3 months before we got last season going was huge for me. Elizabeth was the champion. She made, I think, 1 or 2 games because most of our games are at night and that's past his bedtime. So it really affected her ability to come to our matches. But no, my wife is an incredible person and we've got an incredible group of people with our family that live so close that are able to help, that when the season comes and I need to focus in on work, that's what we're doing. I'm excited now that he's 15 months, that I'll be able to start bringing him to matches. He'll get to see more of training and stuff like that. He is kicking a soccer ball, which I'm very proud of. The constant soccer on the TV is working. But it has been a joy, an incredible. It's one of those things, I guess, before he came, I was like, how am I going to do all this? And then now that he's here, I wouldn't want to do it without him. He has brought so much more meaning to my life in so many different ways. He's constant love, even when things are bad. So it's been beautiful.
Yeah, and Andrew,
Go ahead.
It's all you, man. Like, I have better you than me right now. I'm still chilling with my puppy, 4 years old. Shout out yesterday, happy birthday, made it the steak. It's easy to take care of. But yeah, I mean,
they're a lot of work. They're a lot of work.
So are you going to push the sport? Like, hey,
push soccer on him?
Yeah.
I will provide every opportunity for him to do that. But no, it's one of the things that I will always remember about my parents and their parenting. Pursue your dream and we'll help push you towards that. If he wants to be a singer, if he wants to be a politician, I hope not. If he wants to be an athlete, so be it. We will be the biggest fans of cheerleaders and provide him the path that he wants. If it's soccer, awesome. Just awesome. He's tall for his age group. I mean, that this stuff shifts, but he's like in the 87th percentile for height. So if he gets over 6 feet and starts to get close to 6'4", I might have to push volleyball instead of soccer.
Okay.
But we'll see how that goes.
That's amazing, man. When the little one.
But yeah, I was worried he wasn't going to like Mickey Mouse in Disneyland, and I've successfully brainwashed him through that. So maybe soccer, I'll be able to do the same thing.
I like that.
And Andrew, you've talked about working together with anyone that's willing to work with you as well. Have you paid attention to maybe what's happening with like Snapdragon and specifically on the NWSL sites? I mean, a lot of people have told us, when are we going to see some collaboration between San Diego Wave and San Diego Loyal? We saw what happened with Sheridan and Colin Martin last season as well, but is there going to be anything more like that this season for both teams? And the Soccers.
Our employers. Our now employers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't not be honest.
I like that. That's what I like. That's what we like about you, Andrew. Straight up.
And I hope maybe this starts a phone call.
Ooh.
I've tried several times to work with them. I've gone back and forth because I thought you might ask this question after your last interview about how I kind of wanted to address it.
Okay.
My phone is always there. I've been burned a couple times already of not asking for help, just providing an opportunity to work together. I think we missed out on an opportunity. I think we would have had a better opportunity winning that Midway district if we were working together.
Yeah.
They decided they didn't want to do that. Okay, that's fine. And I'm not expecting everybody's ambitions to be the same, but let's do our best when we can, like the Colin example that you used, find ways that we could tell stories and really work with one another. But I also won't have my hand burned on the stove too many times either.
That's fair, right? Like, you can only try so much, and so I mean, if that's and I'll be honest, right? If that's the message from coming up from the top of the top, from one of the sides, and the other side just maybe doesn't want that, or the thing is, like, the community of soccer is what, again, is effervescent here in the city. Like, that's what it is, and just looking at the landscape in these last 4 years, like, I re-fell in love with my sport. I played it for 25 years in the slums, 7 teams in TJ Crossing. Like that Joe Corona story, like I was watching his U.S. men's national team story on YouTube, right? And the dirt field patch that he played on, I was like, oh yeah, I played there, like, you know, all weekends. Like, like I identify with that. But, you know,
I also, can I say one more thing really quick?
Yes.
I also want to give them the grace of understanding what it's like to launch. Like, we went through a lot in a short period of time to launch the club in the manner that we did. And they went through a lot as well.
100%.
So I understand that. But I would love nothing more for us to work more with them.
And hopefully this does start that phone call. That'd be great.
Yeah, and just give the credit to Two Balls, and I think that's FIFA 2026 rubber stamp. Like with it, we aren't, and we've talked about this. We're not fan media anymore. Like, we've done enough things, you know, and favors and talk. 100%.
And there's also there's some things like we just don't have control over sometimes. Like, I apologize that sometimes we're going to have matches that end up being on the same day, whether it be the same time or different times.
Yeah.
We have to submit dates just like they have to submit dates. The league then submits different dates back to you, and you have to then go to the university or whatever stadium you're dealing with and haggle over dates. And you can't always get everything lined up just perfectly for everybody. So we do our best.
I do like that, and I think at the end of the day, the community is the one that is hurt without that synergy that is possible, right? And I think a lot of the people have kind of like, hey, you know, there's been some time. What's the holdup, right? And so if that's what's coming down, and I just don't want this to become a situation where, and this is very personal how I feel about this in the sport, is that, in a sense, us San Diegans and in the region who have known for years that soccer's been here, we're the natives, and we don't need corporations. We don't need the big man, the big money to come in and be the conquistadors, because we're offering this. This has already been built here. Soccer is in the blood, in the streets. It's been here, and that's why having a goals built in National City and in the Lincoln Acres Park, like, that kind of stuff does resonate. My question for that was, can it be stolen? And the answer was no. So, you know, thank you for that. Just real quick, thank you for that. But, you know, going.
People can be crafty. You never know.
Hopefully not.
It is not a challenge. But ultimately, I do feel like, much like you said, like, there was a missed opportunity, but hopefully, like, the 2 teams are still exist, and I'll even extend it to the third team that is going to be matched up in Open Cup as of news per today. So that's just kind of my overall sentiment, where I would hate for that to be the way that it happens, and just it doesn't work out for the greater good of the city and the sport. And it's unfortunate that it did happen that way.
I would not allow that to happen.
Okay. Sorry.
So we talked a little bit about some of the challenges that are currently happening, right? So let's talk about some of the wins. Like, what were some of the challenges that you guys tackled as a team last year? And what are some challenges that you want to see addressed in very intentional ways going forward?
Yeah. Last year, there was a big emphasis on we need to score goals. You know, there were times in 2021 where I felt teams didn't feel threatened by what we were putting on the field as far as how we were attacking. So you go from that in 21 to 22 being up until the last minute, top goal scoring league team in the league, until Tampa Bay beat somebody 5-0 or 7-0 or something crazy, and then takes that off of us. Still top scoring team in the West.
Yeah.
So I think that itself is a huge win. Excuse me. I thought junior achievement was a huge win last year. I know I've spoken already about it a couple times. I think actualizing and seeing different forms of the locals, or different forms of our supporter groups, really start to grab roots. That was not something that we did, but just something that I loved watching kind of really take shape now. Chavos has a voice and a definition to it now. Now you've got the Rainbow Loyals going loud and strong. Now you've got SD Loyal Fiends kind of breaking off and creating this new group of hardcore metalheads. It's been really fun. I guess they're metalheads, right? It's been really fun to watch that develop and grow over each season. Challenges going into this year. Too many goals let up last year. We got to find the right mix of what that center back pairing is going to be, because of the way our system plays and how demanding we can be in it. So we have to figure that out. Kyle Vassell, losing him is a huge knock, right? That's a lot of goals we're going to have to find a way to fill. I believe in Evan Conway. I don't know if the stat has been shared with you, but it's rather incredible. I did not hear this till the last year. I think Alan already knows where I'm going here. Came from Nate Miller. Evan Conway had 9 league goals last year. All 9 came when we were tied.
Yes.
So the kid knows how to score in influential moments of the game. Now, do I expect him to score every time we're tied? No.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Like, that is a high expectation for me.
But to see him come out in preseason and get a goal in both games so far, that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
I touched on it at the very beginning there, that three positions on the field, but 4 legitimate starters that could play there. I mean, no disrespect to Jack Blake. I think Jack Blake was a great player for this team.
Yes.
and gave everything for the club. But Joe Corona adding to that group in the 3 is going to be incredible. I'm curious to see, does Nate go kind of with the hot hand, the best 3, or does it become matchup? When he wants to go more defensive, it's a certain group. When he wants to go more attacking, it's a different group. Elijah, I don't know if you've noticed where he's been on the field in preseason so far. Yeah. So, one of the things that we saw happen last year a couple times, you may have remembered, when he was in that left center back role, a lot of teams tried to abuse him over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to put a left-footed tall defender in that position in Kyle Adams this year. And now you're going to have to deal with Elijah Martin, not only defending it in a right wing back position, but now screaming up the sideline and terrorizing you down that side of the field as well.
Yep.
To see the system evolve and see if we can adapt with these players that we have, I think will be a fun to watch. And then Open Cup, baby. Let's see what kind of run we can go on. That's always a fun one. See if we can do what Sacramento did.
That'd be fun.
That'd be great.
And do better than Sacramento, because they kind of shit the bed.
I have something. I'll say this. It's a little teaser. We have something in the works for one of the U.S. Open Cup games that, if we do, I will be very, very proud of.
Okay.
Very proud of. Something special that we're working on. We would have to get back past that first match for it to happen, but we'll see.
I mean, it happened last year, so
Yes.
I think the expectation's already there, right? It has to be there. Get better.
Here, another thing I'm going to
Yes.
love to see. I think I have no inclination here. This is just my speculation. I bet you Duran is playing U.S. Open matches this year.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, get him some.
Watching him get that
minutes.
opportunity there would be fun.
Mr. Clean Sheet in the U17s.
Yep.
Wow.
How cool is that though, to watch those games and it's like all these MLS prospects and then like loyal name being dropped consistently? How cool! Like that's like super cool. Like that.
It's legitimacy. That's how I see it. It puts us on the world stage. I don't know. Let's see. Can we count how many other USL Championship teams had people on the World Cup broadcast this year?
True.
0.
True.
We try to find ways to be a massive club, as somebody put on Twitter today.
And Hall of Famers.
That's very true.
So yeah, I mean, I love that we're celebrating the clean sheets. I'd like to see the kid tested a little bit more if you've been watching the matches.
Yes, yes.
I think our two highlights from the first match were him passing the ball around. So I would like to see a little bit more competition in how he handles that. But what an incredible opportunity. The number one goalkeeper is at Barcelona, and then he goes down injured, and then the coaches kind of say it's a 2 and 3. Let's see who's got it. And so far it's Duran.
I mean, to be fair, like I saw one of the highlights, and it was the reflex. Duran's the reflex on Instagram with a pretty. I don't even know if he touched it at the end, and it was like Air Duran. I was like, come on, just wait. That was gold. He could have waited for a reflex actual save. But in any case, it's good. Again, it's good to see that recognition there. I know Alan was talking a little bit about the challenges, and kind of went on the field, and especially with this year, but off the field last year, and I had a front row seat to it. There was a lot of situations and scenarios that it kind of created some. I don't even know what to say. I think we all know what we're talking about.
Tension, yeah.
Yeah, some tension, 100%. Not to get into specifics anymore, because it's not part of the it's not part of the world that we live in right now. But did that take a toll on you? Did you see everything that the crowd and the supporters were feeling, and just with now being removed from that, what can you learn and what can the team learn about an experience such as the one that we had with the signing of last year?
Yeah, absolutely. I lived through every moment of it and felt every moment of it. It was my priority to be on those season ticket member calls, on the calls with the supporters group, so that their voices were heard, and that I tried my best to understand all aspects and positions of what was happening. Sure, there were moments where it would have been a lot easier to say, F it, forget it, we're not doing this.
Okay.
And there were probably things we lost because of it. I know a fan who pulled me aside right after the last playoff game and said, "Hey, I love everything you guys stand for and everything you did, but I didn't buy a single piece of merchandise because of that decision this year. Didn't buy a single thing." And I jokingly said, "That's a bummer. You missed out on some cool jerseys." But then I was honest with him. I said, "I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you stood by your values and decided that that's how you were going to make your voice heard in this moment. I hope that we can win you back and we can show you that, we're more than that." But there was definitely plenty of learning that happened.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back now, I think what I'm most proud of, and I hope this doesn't upset people, he got a job somewhere else. Okay. Nobody would touch that kid 2 years ago. Okay. And it was our belief in giving him an opportunity. And then, Tony, I'm going to give you credit. It was your interview that allowed people to be more open to the idea of having him. Mm-hmm. So doing that, I think, allowed other clubs to say, wait a minute, maybe we can take a chance here. And when we chose to move on from him in the offseason, he ends up landing on somebody else's roster. And when that happened, my thought was, okay, the kid has an opportunity to still have a career. He probably wouldn't want me sharing this, but I was told that when he was told he wasn't coming back, he said, that was it. I'm done. I'm probably not ever getting an opportunity again. I'm never going to play soccer. I'm happy that he's getting to play soccer. I'm happy that people, even if they didn't understand the decision or back us completely, didn't walk away. Or I hope they didn't walk away. Maybe some did. Mm-hmm. People have stuck with us, allowed to at least hear me out, to hear Landon out, and see how we felt. I appreciate those who reached out and tried to make themselves available to him and try to get to know him a little bit. That showed me a lot about who our fan base is. But yeah, there were probably things we could have done better. But I'm happy to say that the kid got a job somewhere else, and that we've learned a lot about who we are and what we can take here at this club.
I hope nobody clips that if he does come to San Diego and scores. like going back to a soccer setting, like I just hope like that's at the end of the day, like that's somebody else's prerogative at this point. And again, thank you for your transparency, because it could be very much the easy way, or easier to just say, well, we live and we learn. Next question, or anything like that.
No, I'm not going to do that.
100%.
I can also, but look at it this way. There's a guy who left here in a great way. The guy fucking loves scoring goals against us. It's not because he left in a bad way. He's just a really good player, and he plays really well when we play against him. It's Emra Clementa. For some reason, that guy just goes to another level when he gets to play us again. We were lucky a few times where he had some screamers that didn't go in, but then he got us. Got us last year, I think. I think we'll see. Do we play Indy this year? I don't think we play Indy. I'm worried about what.
We do.
Yeah, we do. I think we play him in Indy. Everyone plays everything.
Yeah. Everyone plays everything.
Yeah, so that will be fun. Also it goes back to what I talked about having some history now. Like, I'm proud we brought 17 guys back, but we've actually had some turnover, and there's guys on other rosters that remember what it was like to be here, and they want to beat us because they know where we want to be and what we believe in.
That's one of the hardest things that you obviously had to deal with last season. Now, I think the hardest thing that you may have to deal with, even though you kind of, let's say delegated to Landon, is the MLS thing, right? And I mean, it's the big cloud, it's the big question, it's the big everything. But I mean, as far as your personal experience, what has it been like just living your everyday life as far as this question that comes your way? Does your circle of individuals, I don't know if you hang out at the golf course or at the volleyball courts, or like, is that something that keeps getting asked to you? Like, hey, is your team joining? Are you going to sell? Is this something that is part of your everyday life now? And how do you navigate those questions?
Yeah, as you can imagine, when some reporter from Italy writes some nonsense on Twitter, your phone starts blowing up, and you start having to answer questions that you didn't think you'd have to answer, and what's going on. One of the things that Landon, I don't want to say has taught me, but is teaching me, I'm nowhere close to as good as this as he is he has a tremendous ability to compartmentalize different things in his life, whether they be personal or professional. And he has an ability to go down one lane and then quickly turn that off and go down somewhere else. And so I'm really trying to focus on that and do what's best for this club in this year of 2023. We all know the World Cup's coming here in 2026. Yep. Soccer is always going to be growing in our landscape. We always have heard how long you guys have lived here a long time.
Yes.
We've always heard that they wanted to be here, that they want to be in our backyard, right? You heard, I think it was Sports Business Journal had an article this week where Don's talking about Sacramento, and he's talking about Vegas, and he's talking about San Diego and all that kind of stuff. So it's always going to be chatter around us until it either happens or it doesn't. And it's my responsibility to protect the club and extensively protect my investment and what we've done. I will not allow anybody to come into this city without talking to me. But at the end of the day, I can't stop anybody from coming over the top of me with an MLS club. We have seen how this has worked in other cities, both in good ways and in bad ways.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I try to digest it. I try to envision it, right? You're skiing down the mountain, avoiding the trees. That's what I'm trying to do right now, is just do our best to be successful where we are right now and set ourselves up for any future success that is possible for this club. You guys have heard me say many times, I think San Diego can be the pinnacle of soccer in North America. Mm-hmm. Right? There are steps that could take us there.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's what
I mean, there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
Other than are you going to be, no, are you moving into, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and I mean,
something that again is kind of a question that I've always had is like, man, does San Diego, do we deserve the sport? And sometimes it doesn't feel like it, and sometimes it feels like, I hope that everybody's investment, and some more, monetary than others, but everybody's investment gets respected with that. So to switch it to,
I say one more last thing. Like, I think the chatter is also good for us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people, not a lot. I think there's people that read that article that still didn't know that there was a team in town.
Yeah,
so like the fact that they were going, wait a minute, there's already something here. I've talked to a few people that are new season ticket holders just because they have realized, wait a minute, there's an opportunity to watch this now. So you guys know it.
Yeah.
The level of play is a lot higher than people think. A lot higher than people think. It goes back to what I said before about get them through the turnstiles, and I'm not worried. Once people see how well these guys play, the level that we play at, the way we're moving the ball around, it can be the highest. It can be whatever level you want it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, every single one of those players will run rings around you and all your friends put together. That's what I like to say. Like it's a fact in that way. I know Alan is eager as well to know, but let's get to the next event, right? March 4th.
Yeah.
Andrew, I've told you before, I'm not one that cares about what the team is wearing. Obviously, if it looks nice, I appreciate it. I care about what the gameplay on the field, but tell us a little bit, what can we all expect from these new kits for the season?
Yeah. I did not set it up this way, but I've talked about finally having some history. I think the home jersey is a more traditional, classic look than anything we've done before. So now, here's my biggest trepidation. I stood on that stage last year. Obviously, we all knew it was Charlie by that time, but nobody knew what they looked like. A select few did. But I felt so much pressure of like, man, we've been hyping this up. We've been hyping up Torrey Green, like, custom designs. Like, are they really going to buy into it? And people loved it. Absolutely loved it. Our third kit, which didn't go on sale till, halfway through the season or even further down the line, almost outsold the home kit at the end of the year. So doing stuff like that was incredible. But now I'm like, wait a minute. The bar's pretty high.
Yeah.
Like, we have to keep excelling at this. Otherwise, we're going to hear about it. So I'm very curious once again to see how people take these jerseys. First one, like I said, more traditional than our home jersey was last year. Okay. Trying to figure out what I can say without giving away too much.
Do I have to buy a Tide pen again?
No Tide pen. No Tide pen. I can give you that. I can give you that. Somebody asked me if we'd see a little black again this year. We will. We will see some black. And then goalkeeper kits, I'm really excited about this year. I think not that they weren't great last year. I just think they're a good kind of tip of the cap to the people that stand behind him in goal.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about how that's going to look. What I will say about the away kit is you will not need a Tide pen, like Alan was asking.
Okay.
And I do think we do another good job of paying respect to the entire county of San Diego and the different neighborhoods.
All right. That's what I like. That's what I like about the away kit, right? Like, I literally have the city on me. Like that was a good move for me. Alan, are you gonna buy? Are you okay? Is Wally gonna take a hit for you March 4th?
I mean, I always fall in love with the keeper kits, right? Like, I'm not a keeper, but like,
yeah, you are.
Oh, shucks, guys. But like, I have a ton of respect for the guys who don't normally, like, they're not the rock stars out in front. They're not scoring all the goals. Like, I love rooting for the Colin Martins, who we know how important they are. We know how well they play, but they don't always get the accolades that they maybe deserve because they're not putting the ball in the back of the net, but they're the guys who get the guys the ball to put in it. And so like I love keeper kits. Like I don't own any Liverpool kit that isn't a keeper kit. So like that's why like these kit reveals, it's always like, what does the keeper kit look like? Sure, the home and away, everyone's like, oh, kit season. I was like, no. Show me the good keeper kit, because that's what really shows off like the flair, the personality of the team. That's where you get a little bit of like non-typical colors, right? I think San Diego's done a really good job of bringing in some non-traditional colors, because I love a good pop of color. So I'm looking for
purples are my favorite,
right? Like those ones were like instantaneous. And then last year's, the blue was really nice. I know the black is nice because it's slimming and I'm chubby and I get it, but like that dark purple, I fell in love with it. Like, so I'm looking forward to the keeper kits, because I think that's where you get a little bit more fun, a little bit more flair than the normal, everyday run in the mill. Everyone's buying those, the home and away. So I'm looking forward to the keeper kits.
Yeah. And then I'd also say it's going to be a little bit of a different reveal this year, at least how we execute it. So I'm excited to see how the fan base enjoys that.
Nice. Can they purchase that day right there, as many as they want?
My understanding is that season ticket members and supporters will have first access at the event for a certain amount of time. Okay. And then after that, it will be open for general sale to everybody else who's at the event.
Gotcha. Nice. Okay. Perfect.
So
there's timing to it. I don't have it exactly pegged, so I don't want Travis getting upset with me and saying the wrong thing. So that is how it will work, though.
Excellent.
So just to kind of wrap it up, we don't want to take too much of your time, but we're going to have to find a keeper kit for him, because on Twitter, he said he's coming after your job, keeper. We are planning a charity match. And last question we would like to ask, once we are able to get all the details and dates and everything, would you want to be the goalkeeper for the opposing team, playing for my team?
100%. 100%.
So for your team Chiva?
It would be Team Chiva here.
All right.
Well, are we going indoor or outdoor?
Well,
it's in the
semantics.
It's in the works, but we're hoping for outdoor. Yeah, we're hoping for an outdoor game.
The answer to your question is 5 to 7 for early access for season ticket holders. 7 to 9 will be for general public. And there is an email if you haven't RSVP'd yet. Yes. There is limited access. It's on Adams. There's
yes.
It used to be a movie theater, and then it was a fabric store. Correct. Ironically, the chair I'm sitting in, we bought the cushion and the fabric from that fabric store. So yeah, get on that 5 to 7 for season ticket holders, 7 to 9 for everyone else.
It's back to being a theater. Adams Avenue Theater back to a theater, and I think we're the second event since it's opened. So excited to check that out.
I love it. So make sure you're out there. Make sure if you get to hear this before the LAFC, there's still ways to get you to there. Carpool. I'll carpool with somebody or I'll drive myself. But a lot of exciting things. I want to thank you again for your time and transparency. And again, this is always your home, and I'd love to, always get to chat with you and get to know the inner workings of the club from top to bottom. Like, we love hearing the stories, not just your story, but the players' stories, the coach's story. Absolutely. I'm trying to get Coach Beto on, because that man has some stories.
There you go.
But again, thank you for your time, and thank you for, like, it's an investment more than one way of yourself into the city and the sport. So let's keep it going and let's keep growing. If you guys are okay with that.
Absolutely. And can I say one last thing?
100%.
Congratulations, not to you, Alan, but to you two on the soccer's gig. I'm proud of you guys doing the Spanish language on that. I hope you're enjoying it.
It's the adventure of a lifetime, and that was just a cherry on top of the cake. And unfortunately, we offered our services to San Diego Loyal way back when.
Now I talked to Ricardo about it.
Now, and
he's got to make decisions. I can't force the hand.
We said we would do it for free, but unfortunately, our price
can't be free anymore.
Go up a little bit more
for free.
Good,
especially with color analyst Alan in Spanish. Oh, she can't pay for that type of content. But yeah, so thank you again, Andrew, and we'll see you out there at Torero this year. Stick around, and we'll just do a little bit of wrap up. I know everybody loves hearing it, so check it out. Thank you.
Thank you.